I belong to no nation, no civilization, no society, no race, but to the divine. I obey no master, no ruler, no law, no social convention, but the divine. To him I have surrendered all, will, life and self. For him I am ready to give all my blood, drop by drop, if such is his will, with complete joy, and nothing in his service can be sacrificed, for all is perfect delight.
Mira Alfassa was born in Paris on February 21, 1878. Her father, Maurice Alfassa, was a wealthy Turkish banker, and her mother, Matilda Ismaloun, came from Cairo. From the beginning, Mira was an unusual child. At a very young age, she became aware of higher consciousness.
I started contemplating or doing my yoga from the age of 4. There was a small chair for me on which I used to sit, still, engrossed in my meditation. A very brilliant light would then descend over my head and produce some turmoil inside my brain. Of course, I understood nothing. It was not the age for understanding, but gradually I began to feel I shall have to do some tremendously great work that nobody yet knows. When I was a child of about 13, for nearly a year, every night, as soon as I had gone to bed, it seemed to me that I went out of my body and rose straight up above the house, then above the city, very high above. Then I used to see myself clad in a magnificent golden robe, much longer than myself. And as I rose higher, the robe would stretch, spreading out in a circle around me to form a kind of immense roof over the city. Then I would see men, women, children, old men, the sick, the unfortunate, coming out from every side. They would gather under the outspread robe, begging for help, telling of their miseries, their suffering, their hardships. In reply, the robe, supple and alive, would extend towards each one of them individually. And as soon as they had touched it, they were comforted or healed, and went back into their bodies, happier and stronger than they had come out of them. Nothing seemed more beautiful to me. Nothing could make me happier, and all the activities of the day seemed dull and colorless, and without any real life, beside this activity of the night, which was the true life for me.
Mira took an interest in everything, but was especially fond of music and painting. At the age of 16, she joined one of the biggest studios in Paris to learn drawing and painting. But it was always the call of the spirit which was foremost in her life. She later said,
Between 11 and 13, a series of psychic and spiritual experiences revealed to me not only the existence of God, but man's possibility of uniting with Him, of realizing Him integrally in consciousness and action, of manifesting Him upon earth in a life divine. This, along with a practical discipline for its fulfillment, was given to me during my body sleep by several teachers, some of whom I met afterwards on the physical plane. Later on, As the interior and exterior development proceeded, the spiritual and psychic relation with one of these beings became more and more clear and frequent.
Although Mira knew little of Indian philosophy and religion at the time, she called this special being Krishna. She was firmly convinced that one day she would meet him on earth. This being was none other than Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo had come to Pondicherry in 1910. The same year, Mira's husband, Paul Richard, also came to Pondicherry for some political work. He met Sri Aurobindo several times, and on his return to France, told Mira about him. Mira now felt irresistibly drawn towards India. At this time, she maintained a spiritual diary where she noted every day her aspirations and experiences. This was published later as the Prayers and Meditations. In the introduction, the mother wrote,
"Some give their soul to the divine, some their life, some offer their work, some their money. A few consecrate all of themselves, and all they have, soul, life, work, wealth. These are the true children of God. Others give nothing. These, whatever their position, power and riches, are for the divine purpose, valueless sapphirs."
Mira and Paul Richard reached Pondicherry in the early hours of March 29, 1914. While approaching, the mother had a vision of a huge column of light in the center of Pondicherry, and there was such a change in the physical quality of the atmosphere that she knew they were entering the aura of Sri Aurobindo. They met Sri Aurobindo on the very same day in the afternoon, and everything changed. The mother saw in front of her the Krishna of her vision, who had been guiding her all along. She knew immediately that her place and work were at his side, here in India. The next day, the mother wrote in her diary,
"It matters little. There are thousands of beings plunged in the densest ignorance. He whom we saw yesterday is on earth. His presence is enough to prove that a day will come when darkness shall be transformed into light, and thy reign shall be indeed established upon earth."
This was the beginning of a great spiritual collaboration. The foundations of the ashram were laid, and the descent of the overmind consciousness, or the Krishna consciousness, took place on November 24, 1926. From that day, Sri Aurobindo handed over the complete spiritual and material charge of all the disciples to the mother, and withdrew to concentrate on his sadhana of the supermind. Mother recollects those days.
After a while, I too began having meditations with people. I had begun a sort of a mental creation to make each god descend into a being. There was an extraordinary upward curve. Well, I was in contact with these beings, and I told Krishna, because I was always seeing him around Sri Aurobindo, "This is all very fine, but what I want now is a creation on earth. You must incarnate." He said, "Yes." Then I saw him. I saw him with my own eyes, inner eyes of course, join himself to Sri Aurobindo. Then I went into Sri Aurobindo's room and told him, "Here is what I have seen." "Yes, I know," he replied. "That's fine. I have decided to retire to my room and you will take charge of the people. You take charge." There were about 30 people at the time. Then he called everyone together for one last meeting. He sat down, had me sit next to him, and said, "I called you here to tell you that as of today, I am withdrawing for purposes of sadhana, and Mother will now take charge of everyone. You should address yourselves to her. She will represent me, and she will do all the work."
The next few years saw great changes. The number of disciples increased, and many new activities were started. This is a sadhana which tries to bring down the spirit into matter. All fields of human activity are accepted, and the mother took care of the smallest details. From an unknown experiment in a corner of India, the ashram now grew into a great center of yoga, attracting devotees and disciples from all over the world. In 1950, Sri Aurobindo left his body in a supreme sacrifice to hasten the descent of the supramental upon earth. For some time, Sri Aurobindo and the mother had discussed this possibility, and Sri Aurobindo had told the mother, "If necessary, I might go. You will have to fulfill our yoga of supramental descent and transformation." The descent of the supermind took place on February 29, 1956. The mother had described how this came about.
This evening, the Divine Presence, concrete and material, was there present amongst you. I had a form of living gold, bigger than the universe, and I was facing a huge and massive golden door which separated the world from the divine. As I looked at the door, I knew and willed, in a single movement of consciousness, that the time has come. And lifting with both hands a mighty golden hammer, I struck one blow, one single blow on the door, and the door was shattered to pieces. Then the supramental light and force and consciousness rushed down upon earth in an uninterrupted flow.
A most decisive step in the yoga of Sri Aurobindo and the mother had been taken. The goal was certain. Now it was a question of time and of preparing the earth for the full manifestation of the supermind. There could be no more failure, no more falling back. In the meantime, the ashram continued to grow and expand under the mother's guidance. With the number of devotees increasing all over the world, the mother started the Sri Aurobindo Society in 1960. She was its executive president. In 1964, the mother launched the project of Auroville, the city of human unity, named after Sri Aurobindo. It is a city for 50,000 inhabitants and is hailed by people from all over the world. In 1968, the foundation stone of Auroville was laid, and the mother read out the charter herself.
Auroville belongs to nobody in particular. Auroville belongs to humanity as a whole. But to live in Auroville, one must be a willing servitor of the divine consciousness. Auroville will be the place of an unending education, of constant progress, and the youth that never ages. Auroville wants to be the bridge between the past and the future, taking advantage of all discoveries from without and from within. Auroville will boldly spring towards future realizations. Auroville will be a site of material and spiritual researches for a living embodiment of an actual human unity.
In 1973, on 17 November, after a brief illness, the mother left her physical body. She was 95. Who is the mother? Sri Aurobindo has declared, "The one whom we adore as the mother is the divine conscious force that dominates all existence. One, and yet so many-sided, that to follow her movement is impossible, even for the quickest mind and for the freest and most vast intelligence. The mother is one, but manifests in the world through her many personalities. In the words of Sri Aurobindo, 4 great aspects of the mother, 4 of her leading powers and personalities have stood in front in her guidance of this universe and in her dealings with the terrestrial play. 1 is her personality of calm wideness and comprehending wisdom and tranquil benignity and inexhaustible compassion and sovereign and surpassing majesty and all-ruling greatness. Another embodies her power of splendid strength and irresistible passion, her warrior mood, her overwhelming will, her impetuous swiftness and world-shaking force. A third is vivid and as sweet and wonderful, with her deep secret of beauty and harmony and fine rhythm, her intricate and subtle opulence, her compelling attraction and captivating grace. The fourth is equipped with her close and profound capacity of intimate knowledge and careful flawless work and quiet and exact perfection in all things. Wisdom, strength, harmony, perfection. To the 4 we give the 4 great names: Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. To the disciples, Sri Aurobindo has said, "The mother herself is the destination. Everything is in her. When you find her, you find all."